you're here today, I know that you're a go-getter. So let's get into why you're here today. Today, we're going to be speaking about 3 things you should consider when determining how much to save. All right, everyone, let's get into that first thing that we're talking about today concerning how much Americans should save. So the first thing is we need to start at the beginning. And the beginning is we need to see what Americans are currently doing. And in order to see what Americans are currently doing, I referenced a few different articles. I referenced an article done, an actual study done by Vanguard of 2 million different 401k accounts. And I also referenced an article by Yahoo Finance. Now, I found some intriguing things. One of the things that I found was that after doing this survey of 2 million people done by Vanguard again, they found that only 10.6% is the average that most are contributing to their 401ks. And of this 10.6%, 5% of it is contributed by the employer. So when you really break that down, only 5.6% on average is being contributed to people's 401ks. Now, the fact that something's being contributed at all is great. I'm happy that that's happening, and it's better than nothing. But it is not enough. Absolutely not enough if we're going to be aggressive about our savings. If we're going to be aggressive about being financially independent and getting to where we want to be, 10.6% is not going to do it. Now, personally, just to let you know, my wife and I, we contribute 15% or more. Recently, we were coming up to the end of the year and we decided to actually raise our allocation to 50%. And the reason why is because we were trying to max out our 401k allocations versus traditional and Roth IRA. So, again, you need to be more aggressive. You need to invest more into your 401k than just 5.6% if you're going to be, attaining those goals that you want to attain. Now, I want to talk about what's going on within those funds. Now, within those funds, of the people contributing that average of 10.6%, 60% are having it professionally managed by target date funds. Now, these target date funds are managed by professional mutual fund managers. They go ahead and allocate your resources for you. And also, the reason why it's called a target date fund is because it actually decreases the amount of risk that your portfolio is taking the closer that you get to retirement, which is not a bad idea ultimately, but I just prefer to invest my own money on my own. So the number 2 thing that I want to go into is how much are Americans saving for a rainy day? Now, again, I referenced the Yahoo Finance article, and I'm going to be putting that Yahoo Finance article and the Vanguard survey link down in the description below so you can see those yourself. But just to summarize, Americans, they found, GoBanking actually started asking these questions, and they actually found that 58% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved to their name. Now, this is crazy. This is just absolutely alarming. The reason why this is absolutely alarming is because this leaves you in a precarious situation. And what I mean by that is that by only having less than $1,000 saved, you subject yourselves to all kinds of risks. And, people want to talk about investing and the risks that are involved in that. There's a lot more risk than having less than $1,000 in your savings account. What happens if your car engine breaks down? What happens if you have a medical emergency? What happens if a family member dies? Well, I know the obvious answer for most Americans, and I think you do too, is we're going to put it on that credit card. But that also puts you in a bad situation because not only are you not spending money that you don't have, but you're also getting charged anywhere from 17 to 19% on the money. That's just insane. It's astronomical. And it's a lot more than most people get on their investments in the stock market. So by putting yourself in this situation, by not having this much saved, it puts you in a very vulnerable position. Now, on the brighter side, of the remaining 42%, they had anywhere from 1,000 to 50,000 or more, which is, a lot better news, obviously. So the third thing that I really want to go into is how much you should save. Outside of your 401k, 50%. I know that sounds nuts, 50%, but I'm telling you it's not. Now, my wife and I she's in the Coast Guard currently, and I was in the Marine Corps, and again, it's a pretty good career, but it's not exactly a lawyer or a doctor. We're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we were still able to live within our means and put away 50% of our income, and we still do that to this day. Now, the reason why we're able to do it is because in my experience, my own journey of saving, and the three reasons it comes down to that people don't manage to put 50% away is because number one, we're not happy with less, and what I mean by that is you have to be happy with the little things. For example, this shirt, I don't go out and buy name brand Express shirts. I don't go buy Tommy Hilfiger. It's just not my style. My wife actually says something pretty funny, and she says that, Eric, it doesn't matter what brand of shirt you buy. And I was like, well, babe, what do you mean? And she's like, babe, you either look good or you don't. If you look good and you take care of yourself and you're physically fit, you're going to look good in a Kmart shirt or an Express shirt. It doesn't matter. And no, for those plugs, I'm not actually receiving anything. That's just my wife's little analogy to me. But it's so true. It really is true, because I thought I needed all these Express shirts, these name brand clothes to make me feel better about myself. But really, I was just avoiding the underlying fact that I wasn't taking care of myself financially. I may have had my wardrobe looking up to date, but it wasn't. My bank account was far behind date as far as needing to put savings in it. But I've corrected all that since then. The second thing that I noticed on my journey to saving 50% of my income that had a huge impact was that we don't track all our expenses. And until I started doing this, I didn't realize how much money I was wasting. I'm not going to sit here and say you need to track every little expense. You don't need to sit there and, count pennies or, I bought a piece of gum today. Let's write that down. No, I'm not saying you need to do that. What I'm saying is you need to generalize. For example, I know what mine and my wife's rent is. I know what mine and my wife's electric approximately comes in at. I know what our insurance is every month. I know what our cell phone approximately is. I know how much the water is approximately going to be for our residents. But when it comes to spending money, for example, I usually give us a flat rate. I give, my wife a certain amount for spending for groceries and gas. For myself, I do the same thing. I give myself money for groceries, for spending, and for gas. Now, am I going to sit here and say that I'm perfect and every single week I stay within that budget, or every single month I stay within that budget? No, I don't. There are times when I give myself spending money and I might go a little bit over. I might want to take my wife out on a date, or maybe she wants to go out and buy something new for the house. Whatever it may be, there is something that brought us over that budget, which is okay. That's okay, because by setting a spending plan, at least you have a plan, you have an objective, you have a goal, you have a foundation to track your progress off of. And what I mean by tracking your progress is that you are able to see, okay, how much am I normally spending a week? Okay, let me set it at this amount and see if I can live with this amount. Now, at this amount that I can live with, is it less than I earned? Is it less than I earned? Do I have money left over after I pay my bills when giving myself this much money? Well, if you have money left over after your bills and you still have money left over after you give yourself money for spending, the fact that you went over a little allows you just to adjust and it allows you to readjust your plan. That's all you got to do. Now, am I sitting here saying you should spend a ridiculous amount? No, you need to put a little bit of restriction on yourself, and this is a very important reason why. Putting a restriction on yourself does two things. One, it helps you accomplish your goals, which is it allows you to go ahead and reach your savings, the savings goal that you have. But number two is it creates this hunger inside of you. Whenever we limit ourselves, don't you feel that hunger of, man, I really wish I had more money, or man, I really wish I could do these things. Now, the thing is when you go and you do this for long enough, you're going to look at your savings and you're going to be like, wait, I actually can go do that thing that I'm hungry for. But then you're going to realize that if you actually do give yourself immediately what you want, immediate gratification, you're going to realize how far it's going to set you back. And you're going to see how long it took you to get to where you are. So you're going to be less likely to spend that money on immediate gratification that you normally would spend your money on. Now, let's move on to the third thing that on my journey held me back from saving 50% of my income. And that is something called cliff spending and cliff saving. Now, I just want to throw it out there. Again, this isn't a plug, but guy's a great guy. His name is Jaspreet Singh, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Jaspreet. And he is actually the creator of the Minority Mindset, and he has a YouTube channel on here as well. I will link it to those videos again below in my description so that you can go check out his videos. Again, he has great videos. There's a lot of things that I've taken from him that has helped me and shaped the way I think about things. But let's get into it. Cliff spending is when you receive a paycheck on Friday or Thursday or Tuesday, whenever you get paid, it doesn't matter. When you receive your paycheck, how long does it last? 1 day, 2 days, just a weekend? Well, if you're the type of person that gets their paycheck on Friday and it's gone by Monday, you're a victim of cliff spending. Now, just so you can get this in your head, the way it works is you're at zero, okay? You come over here, you go through the week, and you end up here. You're still at zero, but you get your paycheck, right, on Friday. Your income comes up to here. You just climb the cliff, right? You just climb that cliff of having more money. Now, you go over the weekend and you move a little bit this way, and you drop, meaning you spent all your money. That is cliff spending. Now, let's discuss cliff saving. There's a lot of people out there that do know how to save, and they're actually really good at it. But what happens is they're a cliff saver. We all, as humans, tend to have this comfort zone, right? When I get down to a certain weight, I get comfortable, so I start eating a little bit more pizza. When I get to this much money in my savings account, I get comfortable, so I have a little bit more treating yourself time. I go out and I take myself to movies, or I take my wife on dates, or I might go on a vacation. But herein lies the problem. On a consistent basis, you always want your savings to be going up. Think of like the stock market, right? When you see the S&P 500 or where you're looking at those stocks and you see that little line going up, you want your savings to do the same thing. Now, am I saying that your savings is going to go up every single month? No, that is not what I'm saying. That's not going to happen. You might have an emergency. You might have to fix your car. You might have to pay an unexpected bill. You might have a death in the family. You might have an illness. You might lose your job. If this happens, of course, your savings is going to take a hit. But in general, if it goes or stays the same or goes down 1 month, that's fine. But ultimately, over the long run, you want it to go in an upward direction, okay? So what cliff savers do is when they hit that comfort number, let's say that your comfort number is $1,000. You start to feel rich. Life is good. You can finally do the things you want. You can not worry about bills for a couple days. That's when you get in trouble. At that point, you begin to spend. You get to that $1,000 mark, and let's say you got up to $1,800. You spend that $800 to pull yourself back down to $1,000, and therefore are self-sabotaging yourself. So that is what cliff saving is. And those are some of the, like I said, those are just some of the 3 things that I've seen that I experienced that kind of held me back on my journey to saving at least 50% of my income. Now, the other thing when it comes to saving 50% of your income that will help you out is you gotta figure out how to be happy with less. Now, you gotta realize that the greatest things in life are actually free. Think about it. For example, when you go and you spend time with your wife, your family, or your kids, what are you doing? What is the actual organic thing when you break that situation down? What's the actual organic experience that is giving you that happiness, right? It's hanging out with your wife. It's hanging out with your kids. It's hanging out with your family. That's what's actually giving you that organic, true happiness. Now, yes, do you take your kids and get them some ice cream and seeing the smile on their face from having that ice cream? Does it bring you joy? For sure it does. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you got to remember that although you can occasionally take your kids out for ice cream, you got to remember that just the simple act of hanging out with your kids and being present in that moment and listening to them and interacting with them, giving them attention is what actually is bringing you that true happiness, not spending money. It's not. You got to realize that when ultimately your kids want, they want things. You're going to want things in life too. Everybody wants things. We have unlimited wants. Your kids are no different, your wife's no different, and your family's no different. But at the end of the day, the greatest gift that you're going to be able to give your family, your wife, your kids is your attention. And you say, well, how is that possible? How can I give my wife happiness or my kids happiness without getting them things that they want in life? Well, I can tell you. Let's imagine just for a second that you're rich, right? Now you have tons of money, but you never actually spend any time with your family. All you do is you buy them things. So when your wife really just wants you to appreciate her cleaning the house, instead of appreciating her cleaning the house, you walk by her and give her $100. Doesn't that make that relationship a little bit transactional? Is she really going to feel true appreciation just from you handing her $100? I mean, she might think of all the possible ways that she can spend that $100, or call it $1,000. She might think of all the possible ways she could spend that $1,000, but is she actually getting that true attention and appreciation that she wants from you within her marriage? Or what about your kids? What about instead of hanging out with your kids and listening to what's important to them, about what they learned today in school or about what their friends are doing, instead of doing that, you say, hey, listen, I don't have time, but here's $100. Now, your kids, come on, they love money. They're definitely going to be excited about that $100. But think about it. If you repeatedly do that over and over and over, don't you think your kids are going to feel neglected by you? Don't you think your kids are going to feel distant from their father? Now, this same thing happens with friends as well. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if you realize that the actual happiness, if you break it down, comes down to the organic experience and the relationships that you have, instead of the money that you use to give people things or the money that you give to people because it's just paper. If you realize that the actual happiness is just hanging out with that person, you will be able to save 50% of your income, of your after-tax and after-bill income. And I full-heartedly believe that. Now, am I saying that there aren't situations where there may be an instance where you cannot save 50% of your income after giving up always spending money and using money to make other people happy? No, I'm not saying that. You may be in a situation where your income after bills and you have nothing left. Now, if this is your situation, there's a couple things you can do. First of all, you can look at your debt and you can figure out where you can cut expenses. See if you can refinance some credit cards. See if you can refinance some debt. Like maybe you have a mortgage. Maybe you can refinance that. Right now, interest rates are at the lowest they've been in a long time. Right now would be a good time to refinance your home loan. Another thing that you could do is you could get a second job. Okay, well, maybe you're working a lot of hours. Maybe instead of getting a second job, you can cut back on a few of the hours from the job that you have, restructure some of your debt, and go back to school and get some training that will help you make more money in the future. There's several different ways that you can increase your income. So, consider those. But ultimately, the moral of the story is that outside of your savings account or outside of your 401k, you want to be saving at least 50% of your income, and you should strive to get to that number. That number is what's going to prevent you from living paycheck to paycheck. And this is the greatest part about saving 50% of your income. Once you realize that is possible, this great thing happens. You become happy. You become positive. You begin to see opportunities. You start to see your goals as realistic. It changes your whole mindset. So again, 50% of your income is what you need to save. If you liked today's video, please hit that thumbs up button to subscribe. That way you'll be up to date on any new content that's released. Lastly, if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments below. That way I can answer any questions that you may have. And remember, don't rest until you invest.